Hey there everyone, this is Jessica from Domesticatedme.com. This is definitely the hardest video I've ever had to film. Part of me was stalling, part of me didn't want to sit down and film, but part of me also knew that I had to for a number of reasons, and I'll talk about that. But if you follow me on social media, if you follow me on Instagram, you already know. If you happen to see my community post, you already know. And by the title of this video, if you didn't know, now you know. My mother passed away on June 22nd. In this video, I'll talk about my mom's passing. I'll talk about how I'm doing, the changes in my life. I'll also share, this sounds strange, but I will be sharing some tips. I guess that's really the only way to put it. Some, advice, but certainly a few tips that I think is really important to mention because they were so important for me. Things that I wish I knew, things that I wish someone had told me or just reiterated, things that I had no idea about but are so important. I think it's really sad and wrong that we don't openly discuss end-of-life care, end-of-life things in general, because it's taboo, because we don't want to think about it, but it is super important. And so I want to share a couple of things that would have made my life a lot easier, our lives a lot easier, had I known about this. So I will discuss that in this video, but let me just start off by saying, number one, thank you. Thank you so much for all of the support that you've given me over the last several years, but certainly the last several weeks and months, as I've shared that my mom's cancer returned and that she was not doing well and that I needed to take breaks or just be off social media because I needed to spend time with her and care for her. So thank you all so much for that. Every message, every DM, every comment, and I apologize if I haven't responded to them. I know that I have responded to a lot of them, but I've read every single one and I appreciated it, and I just am so thankful for you. One of the reasons that I'm making this video is because back in 2018, when my mother was first diagnosed with cancer, I did a video talking about it. And ever since then, many of you amazing, incredible, wonderful viewers have checked in with me periodically to see how my mom is doing. And my mom is a big part, continues to be, so I'll use the present tense. My mom is a big part of my life, has always been a big part of my life. My mom was my best friend. I saw my mom almost every single day of the 37 years that I've been on this planet. I lived with her until I moved in with my then boyfriend, now husband, and when we started a family, I moved close to my old neighborhood, which was exactly 20 blocks from the house that I grew up in. And then when she sold her house, I found her an apartment that is just 3.5 blocks away from us now. And over several moments of the last few years, but the last year, at least a year of her life, she lived with me because I was her caretaker. If you didn't know, my mom was first diagnosed with anal cancer in 2018. She did chemo and radiation. After that, she was in remission for about 2 years. It came back. When my mom's cancer returned, her medical team decided that surgery would be best. So they removed all of that so that the cancer wouldn't return in that area. And with that meant that they needed to fill in that area. You can't just leave open gaps in the body. So what they did was they cut my mom's leg from her knee all the way up her thigh to remove muscle that would then be used to fill in that area, and then close her up and then give her a colostomy bag. It was intense. As you can imagine, it's the procedure, removing muscle from the leg, the removal of the area from her bottom, and then the colostomy. You're moving intestines to do that. So it was intense. And unfortunately, we had a horrible rehabilitation experience. My mom went to rehab that was very close to my apartment because I wanted to be able to see her every single day and visit her and bring her things if she needed it. And it was just a terrible, terrible experience. So after the surgery, she was in remission again, and then it came back in her sort of like her vaginal wall. and then it had spread to her lymph nodes, and we knew that that was, you know, a stage 4 aggressive. When it's already spreading to lymph nodes, we knew that that was, you know, not good. So her medical team got together and decided that they were going to do the chemo again to shrink the tumor and then hopefully get it to a size where they could do surgery again. So she did chemotherapy for several months. Then she had surgery, which basically was the same surgery but in the front. So they had to take muscle from her left leg, from her knee all the way up to her hip, to fill in the area that they were removing from the front, and then put in a urostomy bag. And then again came the rehab experience. We wanted her to be in the best, you know, have the best care possible. So through my sister-in-law, we decided to put her in a rehab that was far away from us, but we had family who worked there. My sister-in-law's family member worked there, and so we knew that she would be getting the best care because they would be on top of her. They would be able to see her every day, and we had that in, right? And even though this place was excellent, had rave reviews, is expensive when you're paying out of pocket, and is hard to get into, she still had issues. She still had issues with the care because there are not enough nurses. And even if you had enough nurses, it's a lot of time they need to dedicate to the problems, you know, the issues, the bags that my mom had. And so they were not as attentive as I would have been because they had so many patients and etc. So she wound up getting an infection and going to the hospital again because of that infection. And then after that, I brought her home. I said I didn't want to bring her back to the rehab center. I just said, I can handle it. I can do this. And so she came home to me. That surgery happened in September. She, in January or February, had this intense pain in her stomach that I had to take her to the hospital. They did scans. They didn't see anything. They said that her intestine was a little inflamed, that they did see that, but there was no obstruction that they could see. And so they put her kind of like on a liquid diet for 2 days to rest, to give her intestines some rest. And she got better. She felt bloated, but it wasn't that intense pain. And then in March, she went to stay with my brother for about 2 to 3 weeks. Sort of to give me a break, but also to be with him, to visit her grandchildren over there. And because we were in the winter, you know, it's Florida, so she could go out for walks. They took her to the beach, get some sun, get some, you know, walking in. And everything was great until the last week where she got really, she didn't want to eat. She just didn't want to eat. She felt uncomfortable. She was having some pains again. They almost took her to the hospital, but she said no. And then she came home, and when I picked her up from the airport, she was so weak she could not stand up by herself. She was very drowsy. I don't know how she was able to get on that plane. I don't know. She had you know, wheelchair assistance, but she just, I mean, I guess because I'm used to seeing her, she was just dehydrated and so weak. But I got her home. And then for the next 3 or 4 days, I just made sure that she was drinking her water, trying to get her to eat as much as I could. And then she got that intense pain again. We took her to the hospital, and that's when they saw that she had basically like a leak in her intestine. And that was the pain. That's where it was coming from. She was basically spilling out into her abdomen. They gave her a drain, hoping that that would help with the abscess. But then eventually they decided she wasn't getting any better, so they needed to have surgery to open her up to fix that. Unfortunately, when they, you know, were in the surgery room, that's when they saw that the cancer had returned. It had spread to her intestines, it had spread to her stomach wall, and they, you know, fixed the leak as best they could. They had to leave a drain in her, but the worst news was that the cancer was back, and it was stage 4, and it was, you know, devastating. The oncologist said that we just needed to focus on having her recover from her surgeries. That would be the first step, and then we can move on into possible treatments. But definitely chemotherapy and radiation were off the table. We could look for alternatives, understanding that the alternatives had a very low rate of success. After the surgery, I did not want to put her in a rehab facility. I wanted to take care of her on my own. I knew that when I was taking care of her, her daily care routine in the morning was an hour, hour and a half, from, you know, waking her up, getting her in the shower, getting her cleaned up, changing her bags, getting her dressed, moisturizing her. All of that took me about an hour and a half on most days. And I just knew that that was not going to be the level of care that she would get anywhere. Unfortunately, the doctors told me that she would require TPN, nutrition through the vein. She would require an IV. She would also require antibiotics through the vein, and that was just not care that I could give myself and in my home. So we had to put her in a rehab facility. Thankfully, the rehab facility that we put her in was great. We had some issues, of course, but the people there were very nice and kind, and I got a call every single day updating me about my mom. She was there for a while, but eventually we were told that we just needed to prepare for hospice care, and unfortunately it was gonna, she didn't have very long. So I called my brother, and he came with his family over. We brought my mom home, and she was home with me for about a week and a day. And those last few days were, sad and strange, but oddly also comforting, because my family was here. We were all together. My brother was here, my nephews, my niece. My mom's passing felt like it was very fast, but if I step back and think about it, it was a slow process. It gave me time to adjust. It gave my kids time to adjust. They knew this whole time, because my mom wasn't home for a couple of months since she was recovering from her surgery where they were fixing up the abscess, when they were fixing the intestine and abscess. My mom wasn't home for about a month to 2 months, but they knew, when I left every day to go see my mom, they knew, okay, grandma's sick and mommy is gonna go visit grandma. So they knew that she was sick, and then they got to visit her at the rehab, and they saw that she was, mostly asleep and out of it, because of the medications and because she was very weak, because she wasn't eating. And then having her home that last week, they could see her there, they could communicate with her a little bit, because she would just wake up for little minutes at a time here and there, and kiss them and say hello and smile, and then she'd go back to sleep. So they saw her that she was sleeping and not well, and so when we had those conversations, they were sad and rough, but I think it just kind of like prepared them. It wasn't a shock. It wasn't like a grandma's here and then all of a sudden she's not here anymore. So in a way that was good. My mom held on for much longer than I was told that she would be able to. The nurses who would come visit, the hospice nurses who would come visit, were like, it's gonna happen any day now. She's not gonna make the weekend. And by the way, I had the best hospice care. The hospice care that we got, and if you're in New York and you're looking for hospice care, reach out to me, because I have a recommendation. They were wonderful. They were amazing, incredible, 24/7 care over the phone, but when I needed a nurse, they came in the middle of the night. They were just really, really great, and the social worker was amazing. She was absolutely wonderful. She provided me such help and support, and I just could not say better things about the hospice care that we received. But they were factual, and just to prepare me for what's happening. They would tell me that she didn't have much longer. The social worker asked me one day if there was anything that my mom could be holding on for, like if there were any unresolved issues and anything that's like keeping her here. And I told her, it's my daughter's 13th birthday on Saturday. And the social worker said, well, that's beautiful. Tell your daughter that grandma's holding on to see her turn 13. Don't turn it into a negative thing. Don't turn it into something that is going to be sad for her. I mean, it's going to be sad no matter what, but the narrative should be that she loved her so much that she's holding on for that. And that's exactly what happened. On June 22nd, we got up. I would still talk to my mom. I would leave the TV on. We watched Betty la Fea, the original soap opera, because we enjoyed watching it, and I would put on Colombian music. And so that day we prepared. It was a very small family gathering. Something happened that morning that I'll talk about at another time. But we sat down, we had lunch, and then I went to see my mom, because I would go in there every once in a while, and I said, Mom, we're going to cut the cake, so we're going to sing her happy birthday. I'm going to leave the door open so you could hear us. And we went, we cut the cake, we sang happy birthday, we cut the cake, we ate the cake. I sat down for maybe 10 minutes and then I said, I'm gonna go sit with my mom. And I went and I sat with her and I held her hand and I was talking to her, and she took her last breath. And then that was it. I truly believe that my mom did hold on for Catalina's birthday. If you know my mom, her grandchildren were her life. And she was very, very close to my daughters and Benny. But she helped me raise them. When I went to work, she was the one who took care of them. When I needed to run errands, she was the one who took care of them. When I needed to do anything, she was always there. My mom pretty much came over every day. We saw each other every day. And on the days where she would call and say, hey, do you need me to watch the kids? And I would say, no, Ma, I'm good. I don't need it. I don't need you to come help watch the kids. And she would say, okay, well then I'm going to come over for a visit. So her presence was a constant in all our lives. I mentioned that something happened that morning. This experience has really confirmed for me that there is something after death, that the death is not the end. I believe that anyway. I was raised Catholic. I'm not necessarily a practicing Catholic, but I am a spiritual person. I believe in lots of different things, but this experience has really confirmed for me that there's more, that you don't just disappear because of the thing that happened on my daughter's birthday, because of things that happened after, and I maybe will share that one day. And it sort of took some of that fear that I had about dying away, because if it's true, if it's possible that people can come to collect you, to come greet you into the next phase of life, if there's anyone that would do that would hang around just to, watch me cross over or guide me or help me cross over, it would be her. Clearly I'm in mourning. I'm still in mourning. I'm mourning the loss of my mom, the loss of my best friend, because she was my best friend. We fought. We had a lot of arguments for many reasons. I remember being told in high school that I wasn't her mom, but I was the responsible first generation oldest daughter, right? So there's a lot of pressure on me, a lot of responsibility, but at the end of the day, we were best friends and confidants and co-conspirators, and that's what I miss. To tell you the truth, I feel like I'm still in a little bit of shock. Like, I just cannot wrap my mind around the fact that she's not here anymore, physically. I can't. I just sort of am having difficulty with that concept. I've had this thought that it's very strange to know that the person who loved me the most in this world is no longer here. And my husband loves me, of course. My kids love me. I have family and friends that love me. But I know without a doubt that the person who loved me the most in this world is no longer here. And so feeling the loss of that love, that relationship, has been very difficult. Something unexpected also is that I'm feeling a sense of loss from my connection to Colombia. That was bizarrely something that kind of just gave me so much anxiety for a moment there. I have felt super connected to Colombia, but it's always been through her. My memories with her, my travels with her, the fact that I speak Spanish to her. My children understand and speak very little Spanish, but I always relied on her to be that connection for all of us, I'm realizing, because I would tell her, speak to them in Spanish, speak to them in Spanish. And now it's all on me, all on my shoulders to keep that connection. And that sort of freaked me out a little bit. I live in a very Colombian neighborhood, and I love my neighborhood, and I've never planned to be away to move out of it, but now more than ever I'm like, I need to stay here, because this is what I have that connects me to Colombia, because my mom's not here. It's my community, my neighborhood, the restaurants, the food, the people, the language, the accents, the culture. And so that's definitely has become a major focus. It always has. I always wanted my kids to learn Spanish, to know Spanish, but now it's like, all right, we got to get this going. I got to get them signed up for their Spanish lessons, maybe some dance lessons so they can learn some salsa, some cumbia. And my husband and I are already talking about, our next big trip with all the kids. I don't know when that's going to happen, but it'll definitely happen. And of course, I'm mourning the loss of the things that will never be. Like my mom's not going to be around for my daughter's quinceañeras. When Catalina and Clara turn 15, she's not going to be around. When Benny goes to school for the first day, she's not going to be around for that. And then, funny enough, staying on brand to what this channel is all about, one of the things that really I know that I'm going to miss, and I thought about immediately, is I'm going to miss her and our shopping trips together. I've talked a lot about my mom on this channel, and not just about her illness, but I mention her all the time when I'm talking about my shopping habits, because my shopping habits are her shopping habits, are the habits that she taught me. Things like not buying the thing that everyone's wearing. I went to Catholic school for most of my life. She would tell me, you wear a uniform Monday through Friday, you're not going to wear a uniform on the weekends. That meant she wanted me to look different. She didn't want me to buy the same thing that everyone was wearing or go to the same stores that everyone was going to. She wanted me to have my own sense of style, to have my own unique things. She loved something that was unique and different, and I love things that are unique and different. That's why I love my limited edition things and my vintage stuff. It came from her. We both had the same trigger of, if you tell us it's the last one, we're pulling out our credit card, I'm gonna miss a lot of that. During our last couple of weeks together, we watched a lot of, Colombian soap operas, we listened to Colombian music, but we watched a lot of fashion content, and we looked at bags that I wanted to buy, and whenever I bought something, every time, she was the first person that I would show it to. Every little thing, every piece of jewelry, every handbag, every pair of shoes, she would be the first person that I would show it to. And that's the stuff that I'm going to miss. I was sharing this with my husband, and he sweetly said, it's not about the shopping. It's about, the shopping was a conduit to the relationship, the connection, the bonding. And I was like, yeah, absolutely. But it was also about the shopping. We love to shop. We love fashion. We love clothes. We love collecting things. Her apartment is full of little tchotchkes. And yeah, that's going to be... I've almost been hesitant to buy things because I'm not going to be able to show it to her. This is the reason why I've been a little hesitant to film this. Okay. So let's talk about the practical things. My advice, my tips. By the way, if you're going through this, feel free to reach out to me if you have any questions or just, want to commiserate, share. So, number one, please get your affairs in order. And this can happen today. Even if you don't have a sick parent, even if you're not sick, look into getting a trust. Look into the Medicaid process. I waited too long. My mom was always like, I need to make a will, and it was, again, something that, number one, we didn't think we needed to do right away. It was always something that we put off because we didn't think it needed to happen immediately, but also because it's a taboo subject and you don't want to think about it. And so we didn't until it was too late. I'd found elder care lawyers who were going to help me with the process of creating a trust for my mom's assets and then applying for Medicaid. My mother had too large of an income and too much assets to qualify for Medicaid, and I can do a whole dedicated video about this if you have any questions. But what you can do is that you can put all your assets in a trust, and therefore it's owned by the trust and not owned by the individual. And this is something that's completely legal, that the wealthy do. This is how you build generational wealth and maintain wealth, is that you put things in trust so that they're not in your name, and so therefore It protects you from, you know, taxes in certain cases. That's how you're able to hand things to the next generation without, you know, other financial implications. And then how someone can qualify for Medicaid. If you have an elder care lawyer, they can help you figure these things out. That even if my mom's income was too large, they could set up a different kind of a trust where the income automatically pays for my mom's bills. And so Medicaid sees that it's not just money that's being hoarded or being spent on frivolous things, that it's an account where most of that money is going to pay for, my mom didn't have a mortgage, but it would be paying for her co-op's maintenance, for electricity bills, water bills, you know, et cetera, et cetera. And then they can scale the amount of coverage that they can give you. And ultimately what having Medicaid would have done for my mom is that she would have been eligible to have a home health aide, which would have been such a huge help to us, such a huge help to have someone else there who could help me so that I didn't have to spend so much of my time. I ultimately stopped working. As you know, I didn't produce a lot of videos. I didn't do much. I didn't have any income really for the last several months because I wasn't doing anything other than really just taking care of her. So if I had help, then I could have still focused on other things. I haven't been to a doctor in so long. I haven't been focusing on my health. I haven't seen a dentist in forever. So having someone else there so that it didn't all, you know, fall on me would have been such a huge help. So definitely look into that. Reach out to me if you have questions, and if I can answer you or direct you in a certain way, I will, because I really wish I had done this earlier. Someone had talked to me about this, and I had done all this earlier. As far as other things, you know, things that you don't think about but maybe need to be said, or, you know, you need to be reminded, is that take photos with your loved ones. My mom didn't like taking photos, but I could have forced her to take some more photos with me. I have a lot of photos with her grandchildren, but I don't have any photos with her. You guys may have seen my DNA videos, my 23andMe videos. I wanted to do that with my mom, and she said that she would, but I was always waiting for her to get better to do certain things, and that was one of them. And she didn't get better, so we never got to do the 23andMe with her. Another thing that I wanted to do, and I never did, was there are now companies out there that help you sort of write down stories with your loved ones. And again, that was something that I was just in the back of my mind, like, oh, when she gets better, we'll start doing this. And I love stories. I was an English major, and that's all because I love stories, and I loved listening to my mom talk about her youth. And thankfully have asked her a lot of questions, but there are certain details that I never wrote down, and so I can only rely on my memory. I can ask my aunt, but there was one of those companies that you can ask your family member questions and write them down, and at the end they give you a book of all these stories, and I wish I had done that. And so if that's ever crossed your mind, do it now, do it before you think you need to. Just do it. Okay, so why am I here sharing this? A number of reasons. Number one, so many of you have followed me just in general, but especially of me in my journey as a caretaker for my mom with cancer. I told you guys that I wanted to share more about that, and I had filmed, and I have a ton of footage of what that looked like for me, day-to-day care. And my mom agreed to do it with me because she thought it would be helpful to other people if I shared what being a caretaker looks like. Not only to show people there's someone else who's doing it, but if I could share any tips on how things that helped me, things that were helpful in terms of taking care of colostomy bags and a urostomy bag, because I have my tricks, because I had it all down. I did it so many times over the last year or so, more than that, because she had her colostomy bag for longer, but and that's why she wanted me to do it. She was like, yeah, film, do it, let's show people what it's like, and if we can share tips and be helpful or just supportive in some way. I don't know if I'm going to do that any longer. I still want to, I think, because the greater good of helping people is bigger than, than me and what I'm going through. I don't think I can sit down and edit footage with my mom in it just quite yet. So I don't know. Maybe one day. Another reason why I really wanted to film this video and talk about my mom's passing is because I just have this incredible urge to let the world know that my mom was here and that she meant something and that she was important and she mattered. And it's silly because I think one of the good things to come out of the funeral and the wake and all that is that I saw so many people who I hadn't seen for years, who I hadn't seen since I was a little kid, former employers of my mom, like so many people, parents of my classmates, my old friends, so many people who my mom touched. My mom was incredibly generous. My mom was incredibly brave. My mom came from Colombia in her 20s, not knowing a word of English, not knowing anyone, and just worked and worked and worked so that she could provide for her family in Colombia, and then ultimately me and my brother as a single mom. She had a house. She financially supported people. She emotionally supported people. She was just so generous with what she had, and she changed people's lives. There are people out there whose lives are better because of my mom, because my mom helped them, because she opened up her home to them, because she gave them financial support. She literally gave the clothes off her back to people who needed it. I have so many aunts and uncles that I'm not actually related to. They're just people who've been around me and our family for a very long time. I know that my mom, provided a roof over the heads of many people and was able to find work for many people and was always just super generous, always. So I know that she mattered. I know that she has left a big footprint in this world and in the lives of many people. But I walked out of my apartment one day and just looked around, and life continues, the world moves on, everyone's doing their thing, and I just had this moment of like, don't you know, my mom's not here anymore. I felt like the world should have stopped. My world stopped. But that's life, right? I feel this need to keep her memory alive, to remind people that she was here, but also I worked in public service for a long time. I am involved in a lot of social groups and political groups, but I also feel like I need to do more. I need to live up to my mom. It's gonna be hard to do, but I need to live up to her standards and her impact. I know I haven't been as generous and as impactful to other people's lives as she was, and so that's sort of like a goal of mine now, to be worthy of carrying her name, being her daughter. I need to do more to help people. So anyway, those are the reasons why I'm making this video, to update you guys, because so many of you have been so kind, checking in, and have been checking in since I first shared my mom's cancer diagnosis. And because also I do love making videos and YouTube and doing this, and this is my job effectively. This is what I do to earn income. And I do plan on returning, and I've already filmed, and I want to come back and share the stuff that I love sharing, all the fun things. This was my creative outlet when I started working in politics. Even though I'm no longer working for elected officials, I love having this outlet for all of my fun, creative, pretty things. And so I want to share more. I want to return, and I didn't just feel like hey, this isn't, here's a shopping haul after being gone for so long. So there you go. Once again, thank you all so much for your love and support throughout this process, throughout the years, and especially the last few weeks and months since my mom's passing. I really cannot thank you more. Okay, that's it for now. Stay tuned.